The Federalist Papers were a collection of essays promoting the ratification of the Constitution, specifically in New York, written by John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton, who went by the alias of Publius. There were a total of 85 essays that promoted the ratification of the Constitution, most of which were published in New York newspapers. There were some that were published in other states' newspapers, however those were not as popular and were often overshadowed by local writers. What is quite possibly the most famous essay out of all 85 essays, essay number 10, is written by James Madison, who argues in favor for a large republic in which citizens vote for a group of representatives who then vote for laws, versus a pure democracy where everybody votes for laws. He first talks about the problem of faction, which he basically defines as a group of people who are united by a common purpose. He says that there are only two ways to destroy a faction, either by removing its causes or to control its effects. He then goes on to state that if we wanted to remove its causes, we would have to take away liberty, which is impossible because liberty is essential to political life. So that means that the only way to destroy faction is to control its effects. However, because some factions can be the majority and can overpower the minority, he goes on to say that because of this, a pure democracy wouldn't work, and only a republic would be the best bet. The next question that comes up is whether it should be a small republic or a large republic. Madison votes for a large republic because it gives the voters more options and will also cut down on corruption within it. This essay is so important today because it basically sets up the framework for what is the American government. Madison also wrote the 57th essay entitled The Alleged Tendency of the New Plan to Elevate the Few at the Expense of the Many. In this essay, Madison says that the aim of every political constitution should be to first obtain for rulers men who possess most wisdom and discern, and most virtue to pursue the common good of the society. He then goes on to say that the representatives will be true to their constituents for 5 reasons. The first being that they stand by the words of the people who voted for them. The second being that these representatives must feel gratitude for their constituents. The third being that selfish motives of human nature bind the representatives to his constituents. The fourth being that there will be frequent elections reminding the representatives that they are dependent on the constituents for their loyalty and support. The fifth and final reason is that the laws created by the legislators will apply to all members of the society, including the legislators themselves. This essay is so important because it sets guidelines for everyone who will be a representative. The final essay, essay number 85, was written by Alexander Hamilton. In this essay, he does a really nice job of wrapping everything up. What he mainly says is that the Constitution should be ratified right now, and that we, as New Yorkers, shouldn't worry about it. He even talks to the haters, so to speak, when he quotes people sort of bitterly, saying, "Why should we adopt an imperfect thing?" To this he replies, quote, "No advocate of the measure can be found who will not declare as his sentiment that the system, though it may not be perfect in every part, is, upon the whole, a good one, is the best that the present views and circumstances of the country will permit, and is such an one as promises every species of security which a reasonable people can desire." What he's basically saying is that he knows that it's probably not perfect, but it is the best that we have, and that we should accept it. This is Hamilton's final argument, and as I said before, the last essay in the Federalist, and I think that he wraps everything up in a very simple yet very effective way. Talking more specifically about the authors themselves, Alexander Hamilton wrote the majority of the essays. He wrote a total of 51 out of the 85. Hamilton was born in either 1755 or 1757 in the West Indies. He was orphaned at about the age of 11. Recognized for his abilities and talent, he was sponsored by people from his community to move to North America, where he attended King's College in New York City. After the Revolutionary War, he was elected to the Continental Congress from New York. He helped achieve ratification of the Constitution by writing the Federalist, during which he recruited James Madison and John Jay to help him. James Madison was another author of the Federalist and the 4th President of the United States. He was born in 1751 as the oldest of 12 in Virginia. His father was a very wealthy tobacco farmer, and he too had his own tobacco farm later in life. However, he served as a politician most of his adult life. He is hailed as the father of the Constitution and is the author of the Bill of Rights. He wrote 29 of the 85 essays in the Federalist, and he also wrote one of the most famous essays, Number 10. He died in 1836 as the last of the Founding Fathers. John Jay was the final author of the Federalist Papers. He was born in 1754 into a wealthy family of merchants. Like Hamilton, he also attended King's College. He was the governor of New York between 1795 and 1801, and before that, he was the first Chief Justice of the United States. He is also very famous for Jay's Treaty, which most importantly got the British to leave the forts in the West that they said they would have a long time ago. Even with his brilliance, however, he only contributed a total of 5 essays to the Federalist. He wrote 4 strong essays right in a row, those being numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5. However, he fell ill after and only contributed one more, number 64. John Jay died in May of 1829.